And also in terms of Eretz Israel, which I want to comment on, it is amazing what's going on there. Not only, and I believe it's because what the Rebbe wants to do is stop the Erev Rav. He wants to stop those Jews who want to destroy this primacy of Torah, and he wants to replace it with secularism, you see. And what is amazing to watch is that 3 elections and they still haven't done anything. And even though you think there's a government that seems to be unified, but I want to tell you something really, when you think about it, this government that is about to be unified is absurd. Why? Because Gantz has only 15 or 17 seats, yet he has been given equal power to Netanyahu, who has 58 seats. This is not a government, this is a co-premiership. Gantz has now become the prime minister, maybe not in title, of which he will assume in 18 months. But he has become equal in power to Netanyahu. Did you ever hear anything like this? You know, it's an interesting chazal that say that Ein Shtei Malachim Mishtamshim B'Keseh Echad. When God created the sun and the moon came over to God and said, wait a minute, we both dominate, you see, because the moon at that point was like the sun. But you cannot have 2 kings in one kingdom, obviously not. So God therefore said, you're right, and I will diminish you, which is the moon. How could you have a government that has 2 prime ministers? It's absurd. You see, this is not a government, this is a mockery of government. And not only that, they want to create more ministries, 36 ministries, which means that they estimate that it's going to add $1 billion, or rather $1 billion shekel to the budget. Israel cannot afford that. It's unbelievable. You see, the question is, why is this happening? You see, because it's really a government of mockery. It's absurd. And the answer to that is because Netanyahu is indicted for 3 crimes. You see, and he will do anything to get out of it. So what he has done is Gantz is doing what's called extortion, blackmail. Because Gantz is now the Speaker of the Knesset. So what he did, he threatened Netanyahu. He said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring up, pass a law, which I can do because I'm the Speaker, that anybody who's indicted cannot be Prime Minister. So you're gone. And I'm also going to say anybody who's been a Prime Minister for 2 terms cannot be a Prime Minister. So you're also gone. He told that to Netanyahu. And Netanyahu was desperate not to be indicted. You know, he allowed himself to be extorted. That's exactly what Gantz did. So what he did is he gave away half the store to Gantz. It's a mockery. So everybody in Israel is starving because there's no economy now. And these guys now want to create a government that's going to spend $1 billion shekel? This is lunacy, you see. Because that's how desperate the Erev Rav is to rule, that they're willing to give a government that is absurd and almost psychotic in order to avoid losing the governorship, the ability to rule Israel. So this we see again is an attempt of evil to resurrect itself, to keep going. You see, so don't be fooled. What the interesting thing about that, which I find, is that how can Likud, which is the party of Netanyahu, how can Likud allow Netanyahu to be a candidate for Prime Minister since he is vulnerable to extortion, blackmail? Of course, that's exactly what happened. So how foolish can they be? They allowed him to be a candidate for prime ministership, even though he was indicted for 3 crimes. So that means that Netanyahu is a person who's a candidate that can be extorted, blackmailed. How could they do that? It's insane. You see. So look at the comedy that is about to happen. You see. But what does it mean? What it means is the same idea, that the darkness is continuing, and it's the attempt of this government, the Erev Rav, which is basically a secular government, you see, to continue and in many ways diminish the entire ability of Jews in Israel to be religious, to be Jewish. So I wanted to mention that also.